want to start off this video first and foremost by saying that I am not judging anyone. I've been on both sides of the spectrum of this topic as someone that has owned over 300 perfumes at a point, maybe even 400. At the point that I had that many, I kind of stopped counting because there was too many to count. And then I've also been the person to do countless declutters, and now I have a way more refined collection, which is still big, but definitely half of what it once was. And before this whole YouTube channel and the fact that I now review perfumes for a living, I also was just your average perfume consumer where I had like 3-4 perfumes at a point max. So this is coming from the perspective of someone that has tried having a huge collection as well as been the average consumer, which is probably the majority of you guys. I'm sure you guys are not going out there and purchasing perfumes every single day and racking up this huge collection, and maybe some of you do have a huge collection. If you have a huge collection and that works for you and you're not overwhelmed by it, then by all means, literally who am I or anybody to judge? We have one life, you live it your way, I live it my way. I'm nobody to judge. But I wanted to make this video because especially nowadays we glamorize these humongous collections of whatever the case may be, whether it's perfumes, makeup, jewelry, bags, shoes. We live in such an over-consumeristic society where we have so much access to so much stuff. Me 10-15 years ago, or even before that, when I bought my very first perfume, I thought in my future a huge lot of perfumes would be like 5 or 10 perfumes. Fast forward to today, my collection grew to a point that I had never imagined, and this huge collection that I always thought I wanted and that the internet always glamorized and is still being glamorized today. But along with the excitement of finally having that many perfumes also came some harsh realities that nobody told me about. I want to also be really realistic in this video and say that this entire video is the biggest first world problem that you have ever heard. I am not being like, I'm complaining because I had too many perfumes. That is literally the last thing in the world that I want to come across as in this video. But if there are young girls watching this video or going on TikTok and seeing these humongous collections and walls of makeup and perfumes, they're like, I wish I could have that. I am going to tell you some of the harsh realities of what having that huge collection taught me, so that maybe you can want that a little bit less, because trust me, as somebody that knows, it's not as glamorous as it may look. It's also a little bit difficult for me to make this video because even if I wanted to at this point of me being a perfume reviewer, I can't really have a small collection realistically because I am a perfume reviewer and I can't just come on here and talk about the same 3 perfumes over and over and over again. I have to be keeping up with the new and showing you guys variety because that's what I do. So I don't think for as long as I do this job, my collection will ever be super small, but I have curated it a lot. I'm now sitting at about 100, I would say, perfumes, which is still crazy amount. So it's hard because part of me is like, I want to be this minimalist, and I've decluttered so much stuff from my life, whether it be clothes or makeup. A few years ago, I did a room collection where I had my entire room dedicated to all my makeup and beauty things. And a few days ago, I went back to that video and I was gasping at the sheer amount of things that I had accumulated. Even though I've worked previously in makeup stores and I've accumulated a lot of stuff in gratis, it's still insane that I had that much stuff. I was like, how did I glamorize this at any point in my life? Because now I have downsized. I have half, if that, and I'm so happy and actually use and love everything that I have. And that gets me to the first point of the ugly truth of having a huge perfume collection, and that is that most of them do not get worn. You can love every single perfume you have in a massive collection. I mean, you bought them, they're in your collection for a reason, so you like something about it. But realistically, one person versus 400 perfumes, whether you like it or not, you're never gonna be able to get to every single one of them. There's only so many days in a week, so many days in a year. You just can't. It's not possible to use up every single one of those perfumes. You would need like 5 lifetimes, and we don't get that. And also, sometimes you get fixated on a few fragrances, so you eventually kind of find yourself rotating between like 5 to 10 maybe perfumes, but then it's like, oh wait, I have like 400 more behind me that just literally sit there untouched collecting dust and essentially going bad. Some of those perfumes that I had when I had that huge collection hadn't touched my skin in months to maybe even years. My next point is when you have that massive of collection, and obviously you've gotten to that point because you're sort of keeping up a little bit, you know, with the new releases. The harsh reality is that you're gonna catch yourself being in this hamster wheel of perpetually chasing new releases and chasing the next purchase and the next dopamine hit and the next dopamine hit, and it's this vicious cycle. You're never truly that happy with a perfume purchase when you have that many, especially. In my personal opinion, when a collection is that big, a lot of the excitement comes from the buying, the chase, the dopamine rush, rather than the actual owning. Something about owning it just doesn't make it that exciting anymore, because okay, I own it now, let's move on to the next. At least that was my thought process, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. There's 8 billion people in the world. I know I'm not alone in that. The dopamine hit of getting a new perfume or new makeup or whatever only lasts a few days until you're out there chasing the next thing. Third point, perfume goes bad. No matter how well you store perfume, it eventually goes bad. If it's just sitting there for years and years and years, it may not happen right away, but at some point you're gonna go to it after some time of not using it and you're gonna be like, this smells a little different, even if you kept it in like pristine tip-top shape. Many collectors will act like fragrances just last forever, and I feel like some perfumes do kind of hold pretty well for a good amount of time, but eventually things like heat, light, oxygen, they slowly change them. And if you have this huge collection and you're not getting to it in time, that slow process will happen, and the next time you use it, even though to you it may feel like last time you used it this was amazing, it might smell completely different the next time you use it because all this time has gone by. Fourth point, decision fatigue is real. In a world where we're constantly facing so many choices and we're being hit with so much information, the last thing that we need is to get tired from choosing a perfume. That sounds insane and ridiculous, but it kind of was the case for me, and I know it's the case for a lot of people if you have a huge collection. Because I'm sure that when you have that big of a collection, you sit there in front of your collection and you're just looking at everything, and there's a sense of anxiety there. Maybe good anxiety, because you're like, oh, I have so many options, what am I gonna pick? I'm not saying this is like bad, again, coming to what I said, first world problems, but it still is a pointless anxiety that you can eliminate from your life very easily by not having this huge collection, and you're not sitting there going through every single one and being like, oh, but I like this, oh, but I like that, oh, but I want to wear this, oh, but I want to wear that. There would be days where I would spend longer deciding what perfume I was gonna wear than I would actually getting ready. Another thing, storage becomes a nightmare, and also moving becomes a nightmare. Can you imagine moving with 500 bottles of perfumes that are all glass? I did that when I lived at my previous apartment. I moved from apartment to apartment. Thankfully, it was not a big move because we just moved from one building to the next, but it still was so annoying having to package all those things, being careful with everything because everything is glass, putting everything away, then unpacking at the new place. It is such a hassle. And then also, when you have that big of a collection, you need to buy a whole storage unit essentially for it, because you can't just expose them to light. I did that for a little bit. I had these like open cubbies that I had bought, and they were constantly being exposed to, you know, my bedroom window, and that's just not good for perfumes because it'll just make that going bad process happen a lot faster. So it makes you buy other things like storage. I have a whole cabinet with doors that I had to buy on Amazon for like $150 just to hold my perfume. Next harsh truth is perfumes start smelling the same, and you also stop appreciating new perfumes. I know you guys have heard me say this a lot in my past few videos about how I feel like every perfume release is all the same and I'm so bored with everything, and this has been the case with me for a while now because I've smelled hundreds if not thousands of perfumes at this point, if you can imagine. In stores, what I get in PR, what I buy to review, what I buy in stores that I don't buy, like I'm always smelling perfumes. So what may have once blown my mind, to me now it's just like meh. Next up, when you're keeping up with that many perfumes, you're at some point going to buy into the hype, and that is what's going to drive a lot of your over consumeristic qualities. And TikTok being so huge nowadays has definitely not made that easy, because people hype up things Like, I mean, the way some people talk about things, and maybe I'm guilty of this too, but some people will literally be like, this changed my life. You need it. You need it. And I'm like, okay, I need it. I'm not gonna lie, in the past, some of my perfume purchases happened because I got sucked into the hype. Even if I didn't love a perfume that much, I would almost convince myself that I liked it because somebody else liked it. I was almost like, well, if everyone else loves it, I obviously have to love it too. That's a crazy way to think. And I definitely do not do that now. So I'm glad to have learned from that experience because I was literally just wasting money. Speaking of wasting money, having that big of a collection, as you can imagine, is an expensive hobby. Perfumes are expensive, period. Especially nowadays. Even the designer perfumes that maybe once were like $80 to $90 and you can get that amount for like a full 100 ml bottle, those same perfume releases nowadays are over $150. So there's been a huge increase in price points. And then not only that, but now we have niche fragrances that are like $400. I mean, 2 niche fragrances, you have yourself a mortgage right there. And even if you're buying, you know, affordable perfumes, people underestimate how those small purchases become thousands of dollars over time. $150 perfumes may sound reasonable until you realize that is $1,500. That is somebody's entire monthly earnings. That makes me sick to think about. I think that's kind of the main points that I wanted to cover in this video. There's many more, so I can do a follow-up if you guys want that. But what I want to just finish this video off by saying is that a curated collection of anything is so much better than a ginormous collection. Even if you think right now that is something you aspire to have one day, trust me, you don't. Owning like 10 to 20 maybe fragrances that you truly love that are for different occasions, different seasons, everyday wear, sexy going out. Having that set of fragrances is so much more satisfying than 200 perfumes because you're using them, you love them, you know exactly what you have. You don't have this fear of like you need a rush to use up something because it's going bad. You actually have the time to get to all your perfumes. I think the goal for a perfume collection is to have fragrances that you're wearing and loving and enjoying. It shouldn't be just to have a huge collection that's taking up half of your room. I might ruffle up some feathers by saying this, but at some point of having that many perfumes, it really just is a shopping addiction at that point than a real hobby. And that's definitely gonna stir up some controversy, but I feel like I can say that now because I mean, if you had told me that when I had that many perfumes, I would be like, no, I really just love these and it's like my hobby, I love them. I'll be like all defensive about it. But now I can tell you, yeah, that was a full-blown shopping addiction. Nobody needs that many perfumes. And if you do have a big collection right now and you're like, I'm completely happy and satisfied with my big collection, it doesn't stress me out, it doesn't overwhelm me, I'm not a shopping addict, I'm not blowing through my money or risking paying my car payment or whatever because I want to buy this perfume, then great, I'm happy for you. But if you fall in this category where you feel like you have to constantly keep up and you're having this huge collection, trust me, nothing is that worth it. A small collection is so much better, more manageable, and you will love it so much more. Like, you are not missing out on anything by not having this room full or wall full of fragrances. And again, not to judge anybody that has that, I'm just speaking from my experience and speaking to those people that maybe have that aspiration, or, you know, young women that look up to these huge collections. Not as glamorous as you might think. And also a lot of those people do that because it's their livelihood, it's how they make their money. I definitely understand it more if it's an investment and it's bringing something back to you, but if it's not, then I feel like it starts to become a problem at some point. That is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm expecting, you know, some comments in this video, but that's fine. I said what I said. This is all my opinion. You can leave me yours in the comments. We can agree to disagree. That is it for me today. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and turn your post notifications on, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.